Hey, everybody. I'm Dorothy Lucy with my co-host Jason Ball. And okay, I can't believe we're sort of done with Thanksgiving because I have done nothing for Christmas, but we're starting Advent, the season of hope. And today, chasing hope and faith with one of our favorite people. Now, you guys may know this by now, but Jason and I were both in Los Angeles television for 10,000 years. And our guest today is Pat Harvey, who is, to me, the face and the heart of LA television. She's been the anchor at CBS and KCAL for, I think, 35 years.
I think so. I think she started in 1990 when Disney bought it and made it KCAL. So she's the original team. She may be the last person, the last woman standing over there from the original team.
And, you know, I mean, you and I both had really good runs at TV. I mean, I did my morning show for almost 20 years. But, you know, it's funny how people never used to talk about getting fired. Like you didn't talk about politics, religion, your facelift, or getting fired. And now I feel like that's all people talk about. Pat, a very cool girl, will never get fired because she is the heart of Los Angeles. And she never gets to talk about her faith on TV. You know, she's given the news.
She is pretty remarkable. She was one of the first anchors I worked with in LA, and I was like she's a solid. She's a pillar. She really is a pillar and can handle anything and just rolls with everything and with such grace.
Yeah, that is the word. Yes, grace.
As you said, we're through with Thanksgiving, which I had too much pumpkin pie and too much banana pudding, and my mother-in-law's visiting, so that's nice to see too. So
I will eat stuffing for a week until it's like no longer safe to eat it.
It's my dad's favorite meal, and they still only have it twice a year. They have it at Christmas and Thanksgiving, but they always make extra so they can eat it for the few days afterward.
It's a good dessert.
It is good with lots of cranberry sauce on it.
So all I remember about Advent, being raised Catholic and then apparently being a terrible cafeteria Catholic, is getting a piece of chocolate in an Advent calendar. I know it means coming of Jesus.
Right.
You probably know more.
Well, I'm the nerd researcher. When I was growing up as a Southern Baptist, I don't really remember us talking much about Advent, but they do now. I mean, I know they do the Advent Sundays and things, but it started out sort of like a Lent, a period leading up to Christmas. It was leading up, like Lent leads up to Easter, and it was actually a fast time before then, which I didn't realize that either. But each Sunday, it's the 4 Sundays prior to Christmas, and each Sunday has a theme, as you said, and today's is hope. So what are you hopeful for, Dorothy?
I kind of, one of the things I'm hoping for is, I know it's never a good time, but I would like to go back to Israel. Have you been?
I have not. I would like to go too.
Can we do a podcast trip?
That's a great idea.
Okay, Jason, when you are ready, and for everybody, I know it's never a good time, but when you feel like you're ready to go to Israel, I have a friend who I worked with in TV. I know people think everybody in TV news is a heathen. Not everybody. And very religious woman who said to me, if you want to go to Israel, you just tell God, you say it out loud. God, I'd like to go to Israel. And she said within a year, a trip materializes. It is a miracle. It works. It works for me.
I would do that. You and I would go with you.
Okay, but I didn't get to go to Bethlehem, so that's why I feel like I have unfinished business there. I'd like to go back to Bethlehem.
Absolutely.
And I was going to do this because I never, as we have established, shut up on this podcast, or when I'm talking to God and not letting Him talk. I was going to sort of make you talk by saying, Jason, what is your, my prayer circle? They just played this. It's sort of a game. It's not Cards Against Humanity, but sort of a game. For this year, what was your win? What was your loss? And what is your hope?
My win, my loss, and my hope. This year's been a really big year of reinvention for me. It really has. I decided early in the year to do, my husband and I moved out to Palm Springs 4 years ago and bought a hotel, and we've been running that. And that's been good. I mean, that's the moneymaker. That's where, that's our living. But it wasn't kind of enough for me. So I was determined this year to do something else. And my wins have been the 2 podcasts that I've launched, and I do a newsletter about Palm Springs. I think that's been very successful too. So I'm very hopeful for both of those. My loss, let's see. I don't know that I have a lot of loss.
That's not
I
a
don't
terrible
think
thing.
yeah, I think I'm pretty lucky. What about you?
Well, loss definitely the fires, and I mean, I am
Mm.
so blessed to have a home that is standing. We're not back in it yet, but we will be. I mean, my neighborhood's devastated. My neighbors are devastated. We've moved 7 times now,
Whew.
but not not complaining. So blessed that our house is still standing and that we're cleaning it. So, I mean, obviously, a big loss of my neighborhood and my neighbors. Um, a win, I think, is you saying to me, okay, everybody, Jason mentioned that he has another podcast. It's for people who are no longer in news. Some of the cool girls get fired.
I'm trying to
and
get them too, by the way.
oh, that would be so good. Um, and I probably, because I did talk about getting fired, I probably killed the rest of my broadcast career. Jason, I don't know why I would be so stupid and honest, but after I got fired, I did talk about how my news director at the time had said my voice made his eyes bleed, and that probably didn't help my career. But anyway, um, I think I did that podcast with you, and once we finished recording, you said to me, "Have you ever thought about doing a podcast about faith?" Which I never had, but why hadn't I? It's like a dream.
That's interesting that you never thought of it. Huh.
No, and I, much like Pat Harvey, who we'll talk to soon, never talked about my faith much on TV. I did like a stupid, crazy morning show. You don't talk about your faith, but that definitely a win and a hope. I think I tried to change the way I think and the way I speak about certain things. Like years ago, I changed. I have to I get to, as opposed to doing a morning show. I have to wake up at 4 in the morning. How about I get to go to work and sit on a set and talk to celebrities? Like it's the greatest job of all time. And I think with this, I'm starting to change. I want to do well, which occasionally I'm sure say to God. But now I say I want to do good. I still want to do well for me, but I want to do good for others. So that's my hope. With
Well,
this, really,
that's good. And I think you can do well and do good at the same time.
yeah, hope so. Okay, I
Well,
know you want to talk about your DJ priest.
okay.
You and I love this Pope.
The intention of this podcast was never to be about the
Religious.
Pope,
I know.
but somehow we seem a little obsessed with him. So earlier this month, a Portuguese priest, Padre Guilherme, also known as DJ Priest, had a rave at St. Elizabeth Cathedral in Slovakia. This is I guess the most interesting part is it's to celebrate the 75th birthday of the local archbishop. Can you imagine and like a rave for an archbishop's birthday? But well, whatever. But then it
I
gets
mean,
even
my
cooler,
son went to many raves. I don't think there was any clergy there.
right? And then it gets even better because Pope Leo showed up on the big screen with a blessing and an inspirational message for the young people there. As a young girl growing up in the Catholic Church, could you have ever envisioned this?
And you know what? I love what he said. He said we should all just be a friend of Christ. I love that.
Let's play it. Let's play the video, and and then we'll talk more about it here. So here's the video.
Dear young people, with joy I greet you as you gather before the splendid Cathedral of Košice, which is a beating heart of faith and hope. Coming from different nations, yet united by the same faith, your presence is a tangible sign of the fraternity and peace that is instilled in our hearts by friendship with Christ. Jesus calls you to be witnesses of communion, builders of bridges, and sowers of trust in a world often marked by division and suspicion. Do not be afraid, then, to show that you are Christians, to live the gospel with enthusiasm, and to share the joy that springs from encountering the Lord. Always remember the following words and be courageous in bringing their meaning to others. In every situation of our life, we will experience that we are never alone, where as children we are always loved, forgiven, and encouraged by God. Indeed, it is this certainty that makes you free, lifts you above indifference, and spurs you on to love with an open and generous heart. Be witnesses of this joy. Bring the light of Christ into your families, schools, universities, workplaces, and communities. In this way, the youthful face of the Church will continue to shine in the heart of Central Europe, where the faith of your forebears remains even today a source of new life. With affection, I impart to you my apostolic blessing and entrust each of you to the protection of the Virgin Mary, Mother of the Church and Queen of Peace. And may the blessing of Almighty God, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit come upon you and remain with you always. Amen.
You know, for me and really for my sisters who are a little older, Catholic school was nuns who, if your skirt was too short, you had to kneel in frozen peas. So I never envisioned a cool pope.
Well, it's interesting. Next week, we talked to a Catholic nun, Sister Chris Shank, who we asked her what she thinks about the Pope in the first few months, and she has some interesting things to tell us.
I mean, she's kind of a renegade. She's not the nuns I remember.
I think she and this Pope are kind of aligned.
Yeah. So Pat Harvey,
Mm.
one of my dearest friends, and I know a good friend of yours too. She worked with my husband for 35 years.
Uh-huh.
When my son was born, so 27 years ago, Pat gave me, I could cry, the most beautiful gift, a rocking chair. And my son and I spent countless hours in that rocking chair. And when he was a little older, still little, but a little older, I thought we should give it away, like to somebody else who would need that gorgeous rocking chair. And he asked me not to because it was such a part of both of us. And so I took that way too seriously, and it is still in my house, which is my toxic house that hasn't been cleaned yet from the fires. But I still have Pat's rocking chair.
That's amazing. And that's a really thoughtful gift. Not everybody thinks of something that, that's sort of intimate too, because you are going to spend so much time of your early years with your child in that thing. That's a great gift.
I mean, I probably read him 10,000 books in that chair. And if I could still get him to sit with me in it, I would. But but I think he's over that.
Do you have any pictures of the two of you in it?
I probably do. Yeah. Let me look.
That would be great.
Yeah.
I think our listeners would love to see that.
I mean, a lot of those pictures are in my toxic house, but still I have some of that, on the cloud from forever and ever ago. So, should we hear from Pat?
Let's do it.
So Pat Harvey, an anchor in LA as long as anyone in LA can remember. My dear friend, Pat, we were talking about technical issues a minute ago getting signed on here. And I realized, because, I'm not in my house, and I did not evacuate with my Bible, and I needed a book to prop up my... And I thought, if I'd evacuated with my Bible,
then you
this
would have
whole
been,
setup would have looked better.
It looks
But,
good, really.
You know what is in my house? Even though I'm not in my house right now because of the fires, and my house is a little toxic, but it's getting cleaned up. What is still in my toxic house is a beautiful rocking chair that you gave me 28 years ago when I had my baby, who is now 27.
Nashy. That's just amazing, Dorothy. That was a gift out of love, Jason, because just the fact that she and David were going to have a child. So I thought, what could I give them that could be useful, that's going to be used? And to hear you say that is, that makes me feel so wonderful, because I know now your grandchildren will use that chair. So,
And when Nash was kind of young, not a baby, it was well used, but at one point I was going to give it away when he was still kind of young. and he asked me not to. I could cry thinking
Oh,
about that. I
oh,
don't know. It meant a lot to him too.
oh, see,
Wow.
that's beautiful. That really is. That really makes me feel warm inside. I'm so happy about that.
But something, Pat, I was thinking about, like when you're interviewing an old friend, hopefully you learn something about them. And I'm thinking, I've always known you were a woman of God, but I don't know if I ever asked you. Like, were you brought up with that? Has that always been a part of your life?
Oh boy. Well, guys, I'll tell you, yes. I remember going to, can I tell you a funny story? I think it's funny.
Yeah.
And I can
Please.
tell you because you guys know me well. I remember going to, we belonged to an Episcopalian church when I was, a young girl, and my brother was a year older than I am. And one day, I went to church with a neighbor down the street. This was a very different kind of church. My Episcopalian church was wonderful, beautiful stained glass windows and the velvet pews and all of that. But this church that I went to it was like a storefront. This is in the city of Detroit where I grew up. And I tell you, when that choir started singing, there was a woman who sounded like Aretha Franklin in the choir. And I said, wow, I'm joining this church. So at the end of the service, the ministers say the doors of the church are now open if anyone wants to join. So I start marching up down the aisle, and my brother is trying to pull me back. We already belong to a church. You're going to get in trouble. And I said, no, I'm going to join this church. So I did. And as a result, my parents joined because their children were there. I was baptized. I was 8 years old. And
Mm.
ever since then, wow, the pastor of that church actually married me. As you know, I did, you know, second marriage, 25 years, but the first marriage, of course, he married me, he baptized my daughter, he eulogized my dad. And then
Mm.
when he passed, my mother passed 2 years later. So the minister also passed, but his son, who grew up in the church as well, eulogized my mother. So I have a
Oh.
strong connection still to the church members there. The Facebook thing, right? That you both know that I was not on until, I don't know, not long ago. But I was able to connect with them. So we still keep in touch. But yeah, I had a strong connection back then. I still do. But, then I sang in the choir and I participated in oratorical contests. A lot of things that happened there. Sunday school, Bible school in the summer. It was just really a place to go and be loved and really have a good
Mhm.
time. I really
What
didn't
was
know
the
too much difference.
what was the name of the church?
Union Grace Missionary Baptist Church. So I went from Episcopalian to Baptist.
If people who watch you on TV, do they know that you have this beautiful singing voice and that you used to sing in church?
Well, I think there was a guy called Steve Edwards who used to work with this lady named Dorothy Lucy. And one
Mhm.
long time ago, Jason, at KCAL, Stephen just had me on the show singing. And I think I
Oh
might have
my
had a
God.
choir backing me up or a few gospel singers. I still can't believe that happened. And he still remembers it to this day, I believe. And
Oh, yeah,
actually, there was
every time he sees you, I think he
he
makes you
asked,
sing.
yeah, he asked me to sing. There was also it was a performance called Gospel Fest. It was a big deal every year, held at the Shrine Auditorium, and they had choirs from really all over the state of California come and actually compete. And for a number of years, I emceed that program, and of course, somebody saw me on on Steve's show, and they asked me to sing. So I usually just, belted a little tune. But trust me, when I think about the groups that performed, they were stellar, just really beautiful voices and wonderful performances. But that's something, guys, to this day, I have on my phone. And a lot of times I
Yeah.
will just listen to a couple of songs that are pretty dear to me, and they kind of, you know, uplift me in a way when I need it.
Yeah.
And Jason, I don't know if you knew that when I worked at KCAL, but that was truth then. Of course, I did join First AME Church. I think you knew about that.
What are
So
some of those songs on your phone you like? Some of your favorite hymns?
there's one that's nothing but the grace of God. Oh, it's so beautiful. And the other is, if you confess the Lord, call him up. Whew, that's just it. That one is more uplifting. You really get into, the spirit, and you feel very happy. And I think about myself. Yeah, I call on him every day.
Yeah.
More than I would say most of the day. And it's just something that I hold dear in my heart. And the thing about that, you can be of different faiths and different religions, but to
Yeah.
me, it doesn't matter. I remember the first time we had worshipers from the temple at church. We had worshipers from Korea. We had ministers that we listened to, and that we, our parish was full of these kinds of different faiths, if you will, and we all embraced it. We embraced them; they embraced us. After 9/11, if you guys remember, there was a lot of animosity, a lot of differences, and you can even say today, with the Muslim community and the Jewish community. And I remember going to a temple where they invited people of Muslims, and they talked about differences and how they can overcome their differences. And I remember interviewing a woman, a woman who told me, well, I don't know how we can respect each other, but I don't know how we're going to really get along because we believe in such different things. And I said, but you just said it, that we can
Yeah.
respect each other. And I said, I think for people of faith to respect another's faith, isn't that what this is all about? To me, that's what faith is about. You know, I can go and hear a sermon, or as you know, Dorothy, I have gone to a Jewish temple. I remember, in fact, attending, bar mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs, and truly appreciating and taking in what that particular faith represents. And I think
Yeah.
if you are a person of faith, if that's what binds us together. No matter what or who, I mean, if you could be a Buddhist, but if you have faith, that brings you together. That brings humanity together. And I think that's how we show our humanity.
I think that's how it should work.
Yeah, I wish it did.
Yeah.
I do.
Pat, Pat, when you do the news, obviously you don't talk about your faith or talk about God, but do you think people kind of see it in you and understand that that is a foundation of who
You know
you
what?
are?
I will tell you, I feel so much more comfortable now. And I have done it before. I have said things. I think most people know where I attended church. If I would
Hmm.
go do a story or an interview, and they knew that I was a member of First AME. But I have used phrases like "thank God," or I said, "Boy, you're really blessed," and I don't think anything of it today. I'm happy. I feel free to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because for so many years, I really do think that people were afraid that if you were to suggest that you were a person of faith, that you wouldn't necessarily be able to disseminate information or understand
Mm.
what's happening in the world, and you would interpret it to your liking. Well, no. I think, Jason, you could say, since I work for you, that I've always been a person. I know that I've always been one to look at both sides of a story, no matter what, because I think that's what we do as journalists. And we should be able to listen to each other, no matter what they represent. And I remember interviewing just some really, I could say, evil people who, we had a conversation. So I feel more so, I think today, I think I'm freer, and people know it. I
Hmm.
may say something funny all the time, or even just do a verse, you know, or a hymn. I love the Hebrew 11:1. Faith is the substance of all
Hmm.
things hoped for, and the evidence of things unseen.
I was just looking at that one.
Oh, that's that's one of my favorites. And
Yeah.
I think I could say that today on the air simply
Mm.
because what else do we have? We have to have hope.
Yeah.
We have a lot of things happening all at
I
once.
I mean, it's always been somewhat depressing to be a news anchor and to
Mm,
live in that, but especially now. I mean, the news cycle is, as we know, nuts and constant. And
it is. We're talking about wars on top of wars
Mhm.
and poverty, and we're seeing things happen that I remember as a girl, um, growing up in the middle of the civil rights movement. And I remember witnessing things on newscasts, those black and white newscasts. And yes, Walter Cronkite was on in our home. But I do remember, but didn't really decipher exactly what was happening because I thought, well, I don't have that problem. I go to
Right.
school with everybody and I do fine. I go to church. So, that's really not my world. But then as you grow older and you witness things that are happening now, it's just wow,
Yeah.
so much at the same time. And I try to think, is this a cycle? Like, did our parents go through this? I don't think so. And then, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think about World War II, the Korean War, and then after a while, well, Vietnam, of course. But then things seem to be relatively normal. And as I say that, I have to remember the Gulf War. But it just seems like right now we're so, even with our economy, things. And as a kid, I didn't know much. We didn't have a lot of money, but I didn't know that. I was happy. We were happy. But really now to see people suffering, it's a lot. It's a
It,
lot to
it,
take in.
it is a lot. And I know we all, and it takes a toll on our hearts and our spirits. So how do you stay faithful and get through, particularly when you're doing breaking news that's so
Mhm.
awful for hours on end and you get to the end of
Right.
the day? I mean, how do you sustain your faith sustains you, but can you kind of explain how that works for you?
I think over the years, Jason, my parents were such a part of the church. My dad was superintendent of Sunday school. My mom was a deaconess and later became, they call them the mothers of the church, the older women. And I saw them give of themselves to people so much. They had such a strong sense of community and benevolence. So Dorothy and I talked about this a lot when we formed our foundation at one
Mm.
time. It was about helping people, about giving back. So for me, I think that that helps me get through all of the sadness and the grief that I
Yeah.
talk about. Also, the fact that, I've also been a caregiver. My sister, I have a special needs sister, beautiful, beautiful woman,
Mhm.
and her son. So I've had to give of myself. And I think that probably helps me understand the concerns of other people. And while I'm talking about all this horrific news, I've always wished the best for them. I've always wished the best for my family or for people that I have provided care for. So as a result of that, that strengthens me. And no matter what I talk about, I mean, gosh, guys, we talk about children being maimed or that does something. But at the same time, I still try to remember, okay, there's a family out there grieving somewhere for this
Mhm.
child that has been lost or this family member, this loved one. So I have to be present. And then when I get in my car, Jason, I'll either turn on one of my songs that I just told you about, or I just think, okay, I'm going to turn this off for a while. Just when I say turn this off, things that I've talked about and
Yeah.
try to get ready and think that, okay, tomorrow is another day. And if you're a person of faith, you have to have some belief that things will get better, that things will improve. That faith is well, it's sort of having an assurance
Mhm.
that things
Of
will
things
things
not
will get
seen.
better. Yeah. Or that you have to be confident of things hoped for. that
Yeah.
they will happen. Maybe not when you want them to,
Right.
but at some point they will happen. So that's
You know,
really
Pat,
helped me.
I've seen you in situations. I mean, newsrooms are pressure cookers. You and I have lived through some things together. I know your blood pressure goes up, but I've never seen you snap at someone or be angry. Are you always
You haven't.
kind of, I think you maintain pretty well. I think you
I think
maintain
so too.
your calm pretty well.
Oh, I can snap,
She
but
ever yell at
it's
you, Jason?
No, she's got
no
a look
way.
though. She's got a look though. She's got a look where like, don't mess with me.
That is
Well,
so
that's just
funny.
self-preservation.
I
Yeah.
do have that look, Jason. And I'm gonna say I remember guys being in the choir stand, and one particular moment I was chewing gum, and the audience could see you. And my mom and dad, they always sat on the front pews because of their stature in the church. So one day, I remember a stare from my mother that it looks
With
to
the gum.
kill. It's like, so I said, "Oh, she wants me to take this gum out." So I do have a look, but you know what? If I snap, it's out of love. If I snap,
Okay.
it's out of love. And I also, I ask forgiveness, like, "Oh, I didn't mean to do that," or "Don't take it that way." And I also understand everybody has a bad day. Everybody has, a
Yeah.
moment. But most of the time, I try to be pretty calm and just look at the situation and go, okay, what can I control? What, can I not control? And just
Mhm.
know the difference in those things and just bring it in. Bring it in, you know?
And I mean, you've had some things thrown at you. Like Jason and I were talking a second before you jumped on. I didn't realize that Jason, you were the one to tell Pat that your co-anchor Jerry Dunphy had died, and I know you lived through that again not that long ago with a co-anchor who
You know what?
shockingly.
Jason, I wondered if you remembered that.
Mm. Oh yeah.
Because I don't think we talked about it since. But Dorothy, if I can describe for you, we knew Jerry was sick. We knew he was in intensive care. But the night it happened, Jason, I think you got something off. Was it a printer or was
Right.
it something emailed?
Well, yes, they had printed it out, and Don and Nancy had printed it out, and we were finishing up the Laker game, and you were about to go on to do the news after the Laker game, and I had to go in, and you were already on the set, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is. And you
But
handled it like a professional. Obviously, you were emotional because he was a big part of your life, but it was. And I feel like I hadn't been there very long either, so I was like, I don't really know her that well, but
Jason, Dorothy, Jason I knew what the look that he had on his face. It was
Mm,
one of empathy. So I knew what it was. I just knew what it was, but I just appreciated how you handled it, Jason. And you weren't there that long, but you truly, I mean, I really loved working with you. I'm not kidding.
back to
I
you.
really did. And it was because of just how, not you being a solid news person, obviously, but you did have empathy. You cared. You cared about everybody. And just in that moment, it needed to be you to
oh,
tell me that happened
yeah.
because I honed in on you, got through what I needed to get through, and then I do remember going to my desk and just losing it. And Don came in and came over, and just let me lose it for a while. And then yeah, just we're coming up on a year anniversary of that
Yeah.
young man's death. Well, Chauncey Glover, of course, was a young man who came to work with me as an anchor
Mhm.
from Houston, and he passed. And it will be coming up on a year pretty soon.
And I mean, a young man, and he was your co-anchor.
38 years old. He was my co-anchor. Um, LA is a big city. LA is very different from Houston. And sometimes I think, it takes a lot to get used to, hurt me, to find your bearing at that age if you don't have family. Um, and he had his church. He was born in a small town in Athens, Alabama. So he had all of those things. He had built all of those things in Houston. He even had a foundation where he helped, he mentored young boys. So to come to LA, so spread out, first of all, you got to find out where you want to live. You got to deal with the traffic. I think there was a lot um, on him. There was a lot weighing on him. And we talked a lot, but at the same time, I think there were things that he wasn't comfortable talking about. And I wish he had been comfortable, because I think I would have tried to give a measure of even more understanding, you know. But I was at home. It was on election day. Yeah, and our vice president called me, and I thought she was going to say, "Well, Chauncy was in the hospital," because he had been missing actually for a couple of days. He was supposed to come in for a rehearsal. And when he didn't come in and we didn't hear from him, we tried to call, text, nothing. I talked to him on that Friday because it was the Dodgers parade. I went to Dodger Stadium for the celebration. I covered it, and I was on my way back to the studio, and he called. He was supposed to come in, and he says, "Well, I'm not feeling too well. I think I'm just going to stay home and study for the election. So I'll see you Monday." And I said, "Okay, I'll talk to you Monday." This is Friday. So Monday, he didn't show up for the rehearsal. He didn't show up for a shift. And I said, "No, this is very unusual. Nobody's talked to him. Nobody's heard anything." And I did try to, I wasn't the only one. I tried, and all of us, that worked at night with him, we tried. I think his publicist went to his apartment the next day. And by then his dad had called the officers, LAPD, and they let her in, and, his body was discovered. That was the day that I really needed to call on my faith. And I was just very distraught emotionally because, a young life with so much promise. You
When
didn't expect to hear that kind of news. And later, all day, really, and all evening, we did report on the election results, but we also reported on his death. And that was surreal. That was also very difficult when I think about it. And I think probably because the fact that it was so unexpected, you know.
And I mean, you had hours and hours of election coverage on top of just dealing with the emotion. And Pat, you've been through a lot.
I know this is very personal, but when you say you call on him, can you explain what that means or what that feels like?
It's an emotional feeling. I talk to God a lot out loud. I ask for what I want to receive. And when I say that, I don't mean material things, but I've always been told that you have to pray and ask for specifically um, what you need. So that's what I do. I just start praying. I could be driving and I start praying. And I do. I have a conversation, really. But I also, the first thing out of my mouth is thank you.
Yeah.
I thank the Lord for my breath, for being alive, for having that opportunity to, if there was a wrong, to right it, and for those things that I hope for. I pray for that. I ask for that. And most of the time, I'm very specific. But the first thing I do is to say thank you.
Sometimes I think when I have a conversation with God, I don't do enough listening. I do a lot of talking.
Well, that's, you know what, that is, you do have to listen. And
Mhm.
sometimes we have to be reminded that, yeah, you know, God's trying to tell you something, but you have to be able to receive what he's telling you or what you're hearing, what you're feeling. And it's probably more of a feeling than anything because we act on emotion, we act on feeling. And I can tell you, there have been so many different instances where I will say out loud, okay, I hear you. Okay, thanks. That was all you. That was all God. And that, I'm not going to say that's funny because if you're a person of faith, then I think you know what I'm talking about. Things happen out of nowhere sometimes. Then you go,
Sometimes
yep.
it is funny, though. I mean, sometimes I really am like, okay.
Yeah.
I saw that.
right? Like
Yeah.
I may not 100%, but I'm getting there. I'm really close. My prayer every day also includes, Lord, grant me faith over fear. Faith
Mm.
over fear. I say it out loud every day. I get up in the morning and it's, before I even stretch, I say a prayer. And that is included, besides saying thank you, because I'm like, oh, I woke up today. So thank you for that. But I also say I pray for faith over fear. So this was supposed to happen. And, I will say this, Dorothy, I know is a woman of faith because we always talk about it. And I know about her going to church. Jason, you and I have had conversations over the years, and I think we talked mostly about our upbringing, but I don't think we've really ever had a conversation about faith. I think you just exude it. That's why so many people would come and talk to you. You got a problem? Go talk to Jason.
Oh, thank you. It's not something I talk a lot about. That's for sure. And I'm trying to get over, I guess, fear over faith over fear. So I thank you for the for the prompt there.
And I always tell
Really?
Pat she should come to my church because it's closer. But I know you love your church.
Speaking of your church, Pat, First AME is an iconic, huge pillar of the South LA community. What does it mean to you?
Oh, well, that was the first church I joined. And I'm going to be honest, it was because of Pastor
Pastor Chip?
Cecil Chip Murray, who passed last year. I
Mhm.
want to say around April, May of last year. He was just to me the epitome of someone who had so much grace, so much faith. And again, he was really who I was referring to when I said that we would have different people of different faiths come to the church and they'd speak to the congregation. And he was so welcoming. I always thought that this man was so fair. He just wanted people to be good to one another, but he loved God so fiercely and was not afraid. So that church alone, that's how it began for me. And I must say it took a while. I hadn't been going as much, after his passing. There have been different ministers that have taken over, but when I do actually physically go, because I listen a lot online as well, I I go to First AME. So I do feel that I'm still part of that family.
I had the opportunity to meet Reverend and Chip Murray once, and the first word I thought of was too his grace was so amazing. He was
Mm.
just
Yes,
exuded it, and a lovely, lovely human being.
you could feel it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you something. When I look at Pope Leo, I feel the same way.
The
I
new
don't know
guy?
if he's from Chicago, where I work, but I really think that there's something about him. And you're probably going to say, well, because he speaks English, Pat. But really, I just think he's also one that is a shepherd of the flock, wants
Yeah.
people to do well. And when I say do well, I'm going to say love one another.
Mm.
I'm of that point of view when it comes to faith that we are taught to take care of the less fortunate. We are taught to respect people. And that's how I think I've lived my life, my
Mhm.
entire life, because it also came from my family. And when I look at well, Pastor Murray, and then even somebody like Pope Leo, I just feel that. I do. I feel it. So I would say if the news business taught us anything, it's what have you done in the arc of your career and how can you
Yeah.
use that afterwards? And for me, it's always been about service, always been about service. And I think that comes from being a person of faith. I really do.
Yeah, Jason and I have talked a lot about that with this, and me more than him. But I feel like I had a platform, and maybe I didn't do enough good with it. I mean, we were busy doing morning TV, and that was fun. But I'm
Yeah.
so I just really,
You're
like
unburdened.
to be able to do something that maybe uplifts somebody as opposed to just talking about news, or as I did often, stupid entertainment news. It makes me really happy to be able to
But you
do
see,
this.
Jason, do you know how many lives that you brighten? when you would come
Exactly.
into there. You provided laughter, entertainment, and on top of that, you did help people. You know, I know how much community service you did. So don't say
Right.
that.
Exactly.
But now it is a difference to be when I say I use the word unburdened. Maybe that's too strong. I think
No, I think that's good.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can be, you
I
can
think she
do.
thinks this is her atonement, but it's not.
It's
You've already done that.
Pat, I just love talking with you. You know that.
Well, I really appreciate it, and this is helping to start my day. As you know, I'm looking at the time.
Right. You've got like 90 hours of news to do, so we'll let you go.
But wow, it has been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to see you in person and give you a hug. And just I'm wishing you all the best of everything. And I just think this is wonderful. It's so needed. I think if people really knew that even watched, even if Jason, you weren't on television, they know you were part of such a wonderful organization that they would listen because this has been uplifting. And you know, that's another way to serve people.
Well,
So
thank you so much.
I'm not even gonna wish you luck necessarily because I don't think you need it.
Well,
I think you walk by faith,
yes. Thank you
not
for
by
being a
sight.
part of it.
Yes. Walk by faith and not by sight.
I think you summed it up even before we started when you just said Pat is the picture of grace.
Surely is. That was a great conversation. It was nice to have an intimate conversation with her.
And it's funny too, doing this show, and occasionally on the morning show, friends would be on. You you learn more about your friends. I mean, I've known Pat for 3 decades, but you learn about your friends when you interview them.
All right. Next week, as we said earlier, Sister Chris Shank, and she came to our attention because she wrote an op-ed for the National Catholic Reporter about keeping your faith despite the headlines. So we really dig into this kind of, and especially being news people, it's it's a challenge for us as it is everybody. With so much going on in the world, how do you keep your faith? And she's got some really good guidance and some really interesting things to say about that. Don't you think?
Oh, she was surprising.
Yeah. She's also been branded a radical nun, so that's fun too.
I don't like that.
All right. If you've enjoyed this podcast, share with a friend, give us good reviews, 5-star ratings, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram, Chasing Faith Pod.
Thanks for watching or listening, and I hope you will come chase faith with us.